Hello and welcome. My name is Peace Mitchell and I'm co-founder of Women Changing the World Press. Before we begin, I would like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land that I live and work on, the people of Marmu country in North Queensland. I would also like to pay my respects to traditional owners and elders past and present right across Australia and the Torres Strait. Well, I am here today to celebrate the launch of our new book, Authenticity and Action. And I'm very excited to have one of my fellow co-authors joining me, Sara Knight. Please join me, Sara.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. It's so good to have you here. Now, Sara, for people who haven't met you before, I would love you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you and the work that you do.
So my name's Sara. I run a photography studio in Western Sydney called Sara Louise Photography. I am an autistic individual and I am a survivor of family and domestic violence. I spent the majority of my life in family and domestic violence, and through my photography work, I advocate, against family violence. I advocate for autism acceptance and all that sort of stuff.
Incredible, Sara. And your chapter in Authenticity and Action is called Unmasking the Truth. Can you tell us why you chose this title for your chapter?
I have spent a long time in my life unmasking, who I am. So I was late diagnosed. I was diagnosed at age 28 with autism. And it's really been like the last 10 years that I really started unmasking, finding who I was. But I've spent the majority of my life prior to that masking who I really was to fit in, to be accepted and all that sort of stuff. So I felt that the title was just, this is my unmasking journey. This is where I went from, and this is where I am today. And I'm still finding out who I am today, but I am a lot closer than I was.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And in your chapter, you really talk about your journey. You talk about the fact that even as a child, you just felt different from the other kids. And there's a quote that says, "For years, I lived in a world where I felt out of sync." Can you tell us a bit about this experience?
Yeah. So I always felt like I didn't belong. I think I actually say in my chapter that I felt like I was an alien on a planet. I thought differently, and I understood that I thought differently as well. I loved reading. I'm an avid reader, and I love knowledge, and I love to learn everything. Being in year 3, I loved being at school. I loved learning, but a lot of the kids around me didn't like that at all. They didn't want to be at school. They wanted to be at home. Sometimes it can be really hard to put into words, especially when you're not writing it, and you're trying to speak it, but I could see things differently to what others, and I guess I more realize it today than I did back then, but I was just different. And it is so hard to explain, but hopefully my chapter helps people understand a little bit more. But it's hard to explain why you feel different, but I just knew I wasn't a normal kid. I was different. And I had 5 siblings, so it was easy to compare.
Yeah, and so you talk about in your chapter things like the fact that you found eye contact difficult, and then as a result of that, you'd often get in trouble for that. So there's things like that which impact the way you feel about yourself and the way that others treat you, which is different from non-autistic people. So
the most common thing is that the most common thing is that we try to be like everyone else. We mimic what everyone else does, and I was doing that. I was trying to mimic what everyone else was doing and behaving and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so you learned at an early age how to wear a mask, how to pretend that you were like other people. And in your chapter, you also talk about the fact that you went through domestic violence with a previous partner, and that through domestic violence, you also had to wear another mask to mask what was actually going on in the home. Can you tell us a bit about that and the impact of having to wear so many masks in so many different situations?
So my first mask was the mask of survival. So growing up in my household, it was also a violent household. So that was my first mask, was masking who I was, because if I expressed my emotions or anything, it was you're punished. And the same with my ex. Like I think the last time I actually stood up and told him what I felt, he actually tried to end my life. But you just have to, and I guess in a lot of way, a lot of whether you're autistic or not, a lot of domestic violence victims have to wear that mask as well. So in a way, it's kind of a together thing. But it's that mask of compliance, being the person that they want you to be in order to survive. I think I got that out right. I got my thoughts out right, so I'm impressed with myself. So
Yeah, it's incredibly hard.
Mhm,
It's an incredibly hard situation to be in, and you really, it's as you said, it's a survival mechanism. You're having to wear a mask because it's dangerous not to.
mhm,
In your chapter, you also talk about the impact that becoming a mother had, and how through motherhood it really was a mirror, watching your children and realizing, because your children are also autistic, um,
mhm.
learning more about yourself through their journey as well. So journeying through things together. Can you tell us a bit about motherhood and how that has helped heal you in your journey?
Motherhood is hard, but watching my kids, realizing that they couldn't communicate properly, that they stimming. I think that was a really big one that kind of went, oh, I do that, so, and I stim, like right now I'm stimming, but you can't see it because I'm bouncing my leg. But just sort of that sort of thing, and just their thoughts and things that they would say to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, blah blah blah, but they're being told by other people that's not normal. uh, and just watching them struggle and realizing my own struggles as well, like struggling with making friends, social behaviors, all that sort of stuff. So I struggle a lot. I had struggled a lot with social behaviors, and watching my own kids struggle, like I made that connection. But I also think that realizing that having that autism diagnosis and going through it with my kids, is I have a much stronger relationship with my children, and I understand exactly what they need and when they need it as well. So I think that's created a lot for our relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way you talk about how it's strengthened your relationship and how you understand each other. You talk about your unmasking journey in your chapter, and you say that it was both really liberating to, step into your authenticity and embrace who you are, and your uniqueness and everything that's beautiful about that. But it was also terrifying. This hasn't been an easy journey for you by any means. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
So you're always afraid. You're always afraid people aren't going to accept you. And I think I used to have a big imposter syndrome massively. But you always felt like you weren't going to fit in, that people weren't going to accept you. And once I got past that mark of I don't really care if you accept me or not, I started coming out of my shell and being more me. So, I like coloring my hair. I like wearing the clothes that I want to wear, that are comfortable and, help me with sensory and that sort of stuff. I, openly talk about my thoughts and how I feel and all that, which is very different to, even 6 years ago, where I was really afraid to. And even during this process, like I'm become more confident in telling people what I think, what I feel, what I like, what I dislike, and I'm not afraid that if you don't like me, that's fine, that's your deal. But and that sort of stuff. So it has helped quite a fair bit. And being who I am and showing who I am and not regretting it, that's been a big thing.
Yeah, I love that. It takes so much courage, but that's where the magic happens on the other side of fear. And I feel like you are such a great role model for what's possible when we do embrace our authenticity and have the courage to unmask and be ourselves. And there's a really beautiful quote in your chapter from Brene Brown, and you say, "Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we are supposed to be and embracing who we are." And I really think that you're doing that, Sarah, and you're role modeling that for your kids. And by sharing your story in this book, you're also inspiring other people out there who are wanting to step into that more authentic and unmasked version of themselves. So I just really want to thank you for that, for having the courage to show up and share your story.
Oh, I like it, and you know what? If my story helps others, be their authentic selves, and show the world who they really are, imagine what you could do. I have been living my authentic self for at least 6 years now, and look at all the things that I've achieved. If you look at yourself and you go, well, actually, I like the color red, not the color blue like everybody else. Go love the color red. If you like, jalapenos, go love jalapenos. Don't be afraid to be yourself and share who you are.
I love that message so much. Thank you so much, Sarah, for chatting with us today, and thank you for your chapter in Authenticity and Action.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in as well. If you haven't got your copy yet, you can order Authenticity and Action online at wcwpress.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you again soon. Bye for now.